G'day everybody. We're getting close to our start time. Just a little bit of Blues Brothers there as a settler. Hit up the guts. One of Chris's karaoke classics. But now we'll kick off with this opening piece of music. I'll just ask you to double check your mobile phones and switch to silent before we do that. And then we'll open things today with a Jerry and the Pacemakers classic, You'll Never Walk Alone.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver sound of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Was that Angus? It's with a heavy heart I stand before you today, tasked with the solemn duty of farewelling Christopher Edward Gleeson. He's gone before his time, at the age of 67. And grief's a rough sea to navigate when you lose the people you love. It doesn't get any tougher than losing a parent. It does become even harder to bear when the person for whom you're mourning, has struggled for a while, been through a pretty arduous health battle, when by rights they should be savouring the prime of their twilight years. So there's no sugarcoating it, there's no context for me to explain, certainly no solace readily within reach when you're mugged like this. But there's no shame, only profound sadness in remembering all the good times you shared with this loyal and loving Australian gentleman from the old school. To his children, Adam, Kate and Jade, his surviving siblings, Jim and Bernie, daughter-in-law Christy, grandchildren, Langus and Frankie, extended family and loyal friends. I hope the thought of Chris at peace and no longer struggling, somehow reunited in the great mystery beyond with parents Laurie and Valda and sister Maria, offers a little bit of comfort. What's a very challenging time. Now, whatever you knew him as, Dad, Pop, you know, Chris, Mudguts, it's a good one. Jackie, after the great Hollywood comedian and actor. You know, people from all walks of life were mates with Chris, and you all deserve reassurance that his life they cut devastatingly short still had the most significant meaning. And that's what today's all about, recognising. Having said that, I know it's not easy to pick yourself up and dust yourself off, especially for his kids who are doing it really tough. You know, at times of deep anguish and reflection such as these, the memories flood back in a rush and emotion washes over you in big crashing waves. You never know when they're going to hit. And it can feel really, really overwhelming and all-consuming. But those memories are your lifeline, and they'll be the things you reach for when you're feeling his absence most acutely. And that's how you let the light just make its way back in. And remember his affable nature and dry shit-stirring sense of humour. Remember his long and distinguished service as a policeman. A demanding job. Would have taken a big emotional toll that he did his best to hide from those closest to him, as a lot of coppers from that generation could attest. It was just part and parcel of doing the work. Remember his great talent as an artist. I'm sure you're all familiar with his wonderful cartoons. There's one right there. I'm not sure about the Roosters gear, but there's a Rabbitohs man. But he was published in the Newcastle Herald as a cartoonist. He was published, funnily enough, when I was working there. I used to write there for a number of years. Remember his passion for noble pursuits like knocking back a couple of cold ones, listening to his favourite music, singing along at the top of his lungs. You know, he mightn't have been at the top of the list to get a recording contract anytime soon, but that never stopped him from singing with gusto. Remember his fanatical support of the eastern suburbs Roosters, an affliction that he's passed down to his grandson, Angus. Remember his old-fashioned ethics. You know, his handshake and word were his bond, and he always had your back if you were part of his inner circle. So today we salute a loving son and father and grandfather. It's the typical Aussie bloke who didn't need much more than family and a bit of money in his pocket. Felt like the king of his castle. And a brave soul, when all's said and done, who never took a backward step, be remembered for his many fine qualities. So well played, Chris. You'll be missed. I'd now like to invite Bernie up, who's going to share his memories.
Well, thank you all for being here. There's a big mob of you, and I knew there would be. And that's testament to the kind of a man my brother Chris, Jackie, Muddy was. He was a special man. He connected with people. And I think mostly it was that special gift. He could connect with anybody from anywhere. It didn't matter who you were to Chris, you were somebody. It was a very accepting part of his nature. He was great company. He had humour, make you laugh, always have a laugh with him. He had humanity. He looked at people and just saw the person. Again, as I say, it didn't matter whether you were grand or whether you were just a humble person. He took you on as you were. And he had a willingness to do that. That was the thing. It was his first response. He was just willing to meet you on the same level and accept you as whoever you were. Not that he was any kind of a wuss or pushover either. He could burr up. He could stand his ground. Believe you, I know. He'd give me a good hiding every now and again. But in all my life, I never ever knew him to be a vengeful person. He was never a hater. I'm fairly emotional at the moment. That's why I got this so I don't get too lost. But you know, I never heard him sit down and think about getting square or payback to anyone. It wasn't in his nature. He had that humanity about him. But that gift was a gift to connect with people. You know, he had that from when he was a little kid. He was born in 1955. Mum went back to work fairly early. He was just a toddler. And Auntie Peg down in Albury used to look after him. And we used to laugh because Chris would go to all the neighbours' houses and introduce himself. And they all knew him. It was only a little thing. But they all knew him and all loved him. And it just kept going like that, right up until the very end. That was the man. Now, in 1974, he joined the police and he served 25 years. And I know that it was a career that left scars on him, probably because of that humanity in him. The horrible things that he saw in the course of his career, as every copper does, left their mark, deep marks. Told me stories that I've never shared and probably won't. But I believe some of that humanity that he had also made him a good copper. He was the cop you wanted to talk to if you were in trouble. He was the right sort of person for someone who was in distress. A couple of times in my life where I was falling apart, just sitting down with him was enough. Didn't have to say anything magical, but he was just enough to keep me, sort me out and get me back on my feet. His health deteriorated in the last few years, and the quality of his life was pretty tough towards the end. But he would always brighten up and rise to the moment and have a laugh with friends when that occasion came about. My last memory of him is the NRL Grand Final. Maxie Skinner, who couldn't be here, he's over in Western Australia, and I were with Chris, and we had a good day. That's my last memory, but it's also the typical memory, and it's a good one. I'm keeping that. He'll leave a big hole in my life, and for some of you too, he'll leave that same big hole. I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with him in the last few years, last decade or so, and I'm really grateful for that. So, as they say up north in Nungabuya language, where I come from, Wio na moriong. Goodbye, my brother.
Thanks, Bernie. Righto, Adam. You ready to go, mate?
Thank you all for coming. A little bit earlier than I thought I was going to have to jump up, but I feel like the last 10 years we've probably mentally been preparing for this moment with the activities and life of Dad. A man with 9 lives and many more stories to share. Growing up as a young kid, Dad showed us how to make fun of every situation and not take ourselves too seriously. As a policeman, he didn't match the stereotype of what people thought he would be. From turning up to our school in full police uniform and giving speeches on what it's like to be a police officer, to driving through Cessnock in our family car and watching him manoeuvre the vehicle just enough to catch the passing police officer's attention. They'd often turn around, sirens on, and pull us over. This is all with his panicked kids sitting in the back seat. He'd rev the engine and start edging forward until he got eye contact with the officer, until they realised who he was and basically said, "Piss off, matey." Not one for exercise, his version of walking the dogs would be to start the motorbike, get one of the kids on the back, and let the dogs chase us around the block. This gradually evolved to driving down to the river, throwing a ball, and letting them chase us up the hill. To finally, a slow shuffle over to the Rutherford shops with Ali, turning around and letting her find her own way home when he did pit stop at the club. We were never worried about Dad not making an event. He would always try to get there, even if it was after a night shift and a 30-minute nap in the car. Our biggest concern was what he was going to be wearing. It could range from a fluoro yellow rain jacket with matching pants, a self-designed Mickey Rat t-shirt, a jumper decorated in Labrador hair, or he could turn up with an old man mask on and wig and just sit there watching us play football or netball. Humour was a big part of his life. He'd often put on an accent when friends called our house phone, or he'd dress up in costume and meet them at the front door, trying to create an embarrassing situation. In our early teens, one of his favourite jokes would be to go to the drive-through and order our meal via the voice box. He'd then turn to us with his look on his face and say, "I think this girl's flirting with me." Our reply would be, "No, Dad, she's definitely not flirting with you." But he'd dig in, "Yeah, she's definitely flirting with me. I'm going to have to tell her that I'm married and I've got kids." The next 5 metres, we'd be sinking into our chairs, not knowing what he's going to say, until he collected his order and politely said thank you and drove away. This routine would have a lot of options, like, "Do you want me to ask them on a date for you?" Or, "They're being rude to me, I'm going to have to say something to them." Some of Dad's artistic achievements, which people might not know about, was his second prize in the Funny Stone video show, with a scripted rendition of our border collie chasing a reflection on his watch, and his cartoons being shown on the Thursday night footy show. I had a coach at the time ask me, "Was that your little brother that did the cartoons?" And I said, "No, that was my dad." Dad loved being a grandfather. He didn't always get to the events, but he got to claim 2 important ones. On the morning that this little fella was born, I sent a text message to all the family to let them know that we're on our way to hospital. Then in 20 minutes, I had a phone call from Dad. "What time do you think will happen?" Because I've got a specialist appointment at the hospital, so I might come down early. Well, Angus wasn't waiting around, and 4 hours later, we had our little boy. And up to this point, we didn't know this, we hadn't told anyone the sex, nobody knew, and our plan was that all the grandparents would come to the hospital and would try and share the news at the same time, so no one missed out. As we're coming through the birthing suite corridor, I look up, and here's Dad, walking through the corridor looking for his son and his daughter-in-law. We had to get him out of there, sit him at the front, and 15 minutes later I went to see him. Straight away, he said to me, "What have I got?" And he was the first to know that we had a little boy. He was so happy that he convinced the specialist to let him stay for another 10 days, which allowed him to visit morning and night, much to the delight of the new mother who was learning to breastfeed and all those funny things with Dad dropping his head in the curtains and saying hello. Then with Frankie, she was due on his birthday, and this had alarm bells ringing in the family, thinking, what if we had another Muddy? And like clockwork, on the 28th of the 5th, we were going to hospital. So I sent him a text. And if his birthday celebrations hadn't already commenced, it certainly kicked them off. 3 days later, Frankie arrived. I texted Dad to let him know that everyone was fine. Again, the plan was to get all the grandparents there together, try and tell them at the same time. This didn't sit well with Muddy. Phone call after phone call after phone call. Please, Adam, you need to let me know. Don't do this to me. I need to know. Eventually, I told him, under the promise that he wouldn't say anything else to the other grandparents I'd arrived that afternoon. 5 minutes later, my sister Kate received a phone call from Muddy. It's a girl. I'm so happy. The kids loved FaceTime with Muddy. He started every conversation with a rooster crow, which Gus would return serve. This is a very cute thing that they did until it went back and forth for 2 or 3 minutes, and then it was time to change the subject. He was a constant storyteller and practical joker with a love for drawing cartoons, sitting with his dogs and listening to music with a drink in hand. He loved his rugby league. Golf and boxing, and singing karaoke. I didn't always agree with his lifestyle choices, but he was content with his life. I know he'd be embarrassed with all the fuss being made, but at the same time, he'd be having a giggle to himself, thinking how did he get everyone to stop doing what they were doing for a day and come to his funeral. He would then quietly retreat back to his shed or front veranda and process all this on his own terms.
My name's Angus.
Do you want to say we'll miss Muddy? I'm going to miss Muddy. Do you want to say I'm going to miss Muddy? Okay.
Did him proud, mate. You going to do the rooster call for us, Angus? It's a rooster that's had a few too many ciggies. Right, thanks, Bernie. Adam, tough gig for both of you, and you both honoured him beautifully. You know, we've heard about a bloke who did things his way, you know, an original. So it's a good time to now put some pictures to those memories, and there's only really one song to go with it.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off deepest doubt. I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall, and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my Yes, it was my way.
Well, there's some beautiful memories there. I know it's emotional, a really heavy thing to see all their memories rush at you like that, but that's what you want to hold on to. How good was some of the fashion in that? Some of the gear from the 70s. Is that a gold safari suit with the thick moustache? That wedding suit, they look like Buddy Holly and the Crickets. But, you know, I know it's a lot to take in, so, you know, while you just think about Chris in your own way, I've gone against every fibre of my being as a Mad Rabbitohs supporter to write this poem for him. The lunatic one-eyed rooster supporter. This one's for you, Muddy. Wherever unhinged eastern suburbs supporters congregate, and whenever lunatic rooster boosters meet, the conversation always turns towards the undisputed one-eyed elite, the ones who are outstanding, consistently the best. Of these ratbags, there's one big gun who rates right up there with the best. If you've seen his barracking exhibitions, you must agree with me. He was in a class right up the top. Superlative was he. So let it be known to one and all, for whom one-eyed rooster boosting is the game. There was a master at this noble art, and Mudguts Gleeson was his name. From the glory years of Kurt, Fairfax and Beatson, through to modern legends like Cordner, JWH and Teddy, he'd be chanting in the winter sunshine through chattering teeth. And the only God he truly worshipped was a 5'8" named Freddie. And if you doubt he's the most one-eyed of all, if you're still looking for incontrovertible proof, Well, when the tricolours from Bondi stood tall in 2019, muddy screams of joy shook the walls in neighbouring towns. His meat-axe celebrations with newborn grandson Angus raised the roof. And like all elite one-eyed supporters, his boys in red, white and blue were never to blame. It was a bloody ref, bloody Rabbitohs, even bloody climate change. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth. He was the best of all. This proud rooster named Gleeson. You don't need any more proof. So wherever one-eyed eastern suburb supporters congregate, and whenever unhinged roosters lunatics are at the game, they'll agree to a man there was one true king, and Christopher Edward Gleeson was his name. That's the last time I'll be reading that. But, you know, it's your day, mate. So good luck to the Roosters. They're a good club. Now, Chris is in no way defined by the full stop. You know, he's defined by the story, the many compelling chapters of his life that we just saw on the slideshow up there. You know, and his spirit in no way diminishes just because he's no longer here. His lessons, you know, his humour, his humanity, his humility, they're embedded in the bedrock of your family's DNA. And his legacy lives on in his children, his grandchildren, generations of your family still to come. And the way you keep his spirit alive is by talking about him whenever you get together. Today's just a start. You know, by sharing your cherished memories of Chris, that's how you keep him close to your heart and keep his spirit alive. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of good yarns after the service when everyone's invited back to Maitland City, his old stomping ground. And don't be shy about sharing them, especially with his children, because that's food for their soul right now. They're really doing it tough. There's probably plenty of yarns they haven't heard that they'd love to hear. But that brings us to the final part of the service, ladies and gentlemen. I'd ask everyone who's able to stand for the committal, please. We ready to go, Frankie? I've got the nod. It's now time to tenderly, lovingly, and with the utmost reverence, commit the body of Christopher Edward Gleeson to nature's keeping. Spirit of life be with all of you, giving you the peace of acceptance and understanding, and the assurance in those things that never die. Those things that pass from person to person, through the generations into eternity, from parent to child to grandchild, well beyond. Especially love, loyalty, family, respect. As in the spirit of those cornerstones we've gathered here today in Chris's honour, it is in the same spirit, only emboldened, we shall depart. We give thanks for Chris's life, lived on his own terms. Remember with fondness and gratitude his fierce devotion to family, his loyalty and his ethics, his resilience and his ratbaggery, his mischief and his cheek, and the considerable lessons he's passed on in his own way to each of you here today, and countless more who were lucky to know him. So Chris, those who were there for you unconditionally, want you to know they're devastated. As impossible as it seems right now, they'll soldier on. They'll do your memory proud. And on their behalf, it's my honour to bid you the fondest of farewells and to reassure you your life, though cut tragically short, had profound meaning. You've left a void in your family and your community that can't be filled, but you'll never be forgotten by those who love you the most. Rest easy, good sir. Now for the final piece of music, which is very Chris. You wouldn't want anyone kicking stones on their way out of here. He'd want you to remember the good times. Hopefully this song helps. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Other things
make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. Hey, always look on the bright side of life. Come on. Always look on the bright side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your scene, give the audience a grin. Enjoy it, it's your last chance anyhow. So always look on the bright side of death. Just before you draw your terminal breath. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's a laugh and death's a joke, it's true. You'll see it's all a show, keep 'em laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the right side of life. Come on, Brian, cheer up. Always look on the right side of life. Always look on the right side of life. Worst things happen at sea, you know. Always look on the right side. What you got to lose? You know, you come from nothing, you're going back to nothing. What you lost? Nothing. Look on the right side of life. Nothing will come from nothing, you know what I say? Cheer up, you old bugger. Come on, give us a quiz. There you are. See? End of the film. Incidentally, this record's available in the foyer. So much more to live as well, you know. All right, it's a lot. Get this bloody lot down. Change this mantle within 3 weeks. You big place for all this rubbish. Never make the money back, you know. I told him. I said to him, Bernie, I said, they'll never